Hello, neighbors. Happy Monday. Welcome to my porch talk. That's actually on my porch for today. 2 weeks ago when I did this, it was 10 degrees outside, and today it's a lovely, lovely spring day. So I get to be out here with you guys, so very exciting. I switched shirts. I have something I'm going to later with the scout troop, talking to them about local government, so I'm excited about that. Unfortunately, guys, I'm technologically challenged, or Instagram just doesn't like my phone, but I cannot seem to find the filter again that mirrors things so that you can actually read what I have, so I apologize for that. I'll do my best. Today will be pretty chill. Our agenda tomorrow for our actual meeting is very light. We only have 2 agenda items that we're voting on, yes. Anyway, I'll talk about that in a second. But most of what is going to be happening tomorrow, and that's going to have the biggest amount of content, is during our work session at 5 o'clock. So last time we were supposed to have a presentation from John Werner with Cumberland Securities on our Red Bank debt service analysis and discussion, and there was a miscommunication about when we needed him to show up. So he will actually be in attendance at our work session tomorrow at 5 o'clock. If you are interested in learning about what the status of our current debt service is, what we have the capacity for based on our current revenues, projected revenues, etc., this is going to be a pretty in-depth conversation. And it's going to help us as we're preparing to establish our first ever capital improvement program for long-term planning for capital projects. So I am very excited to have that conversation and to welcome Mr. Werner to our commission chambers. The other item, which again, you can't read it, sorry, is we're going to be getting an update from City Recorder Perry on administration and finance goals. And there's a whole slideshow, and she's going to go through over like things that they've been doing over the past few years to really improve service delivery efficiencies within those departments, and then looking at what our future goals are for those departments. So this is all kind of like leading up to budget season. We're not in budget season just yet. That our workshops typically will start around the end of March, and then go through April and into May, and then we just have to vote on our next budget by June 30th. So having that wiggle room allows us to have more meetings if we need to, more community workshop meetings around the budget or whatever seems to be needed or desired. But these are great kind of lead ups to those bigger budget conversations. Item number 3 is we are going to be hearing from our community development director, Johnson, on the community development goals. So this was a new department that we established last year with the budget cycle, where we restructured existing staff into this new department that's heavily focused on community and economic development in Red Bank. So I'm excited to hear from her on the achievements we've been able to make in the past almost fiscal year, but some of these things were kind of in the works already before we established that department, and then they just fell under that department's purview. So we'll get to hear about those things, what we're looking forward to in community development. And then item number 4 is another discussion, the winter weather after action report. This is just going to be from our public works director, Tate. He's going to be talking about what kind of service delivery there was during the snow and inclement weather events that we had earlier this month. And then the 2 voting items that we have on the agenda, the 2 new voting items, I should say, that we have on the agenda tomorrow are appointing members to the Board of Zoning Appeals. So we have one member, Sonia Millard, who is going to be reappointed to continue serving in that role. Her term is up, but she is volunteering to continue in that role. And then we will be also appointing another Red Bank neighbor, Chad Bullard, who has a desire to become more engaged and volunteer in the community. So we'll be voting on that tomorrow. And then the final item is approving Volkert scope of work for traffic study near Signal Mtn Rd. So this is related to the restriping project that is coming down the pipeline from the tunnel, the Cherokee Tunnel, to Signal Mtn Rd and up Signal Mtn Rd to the end of Red Bank city limits. That section of road is actually Tennessee State Route 8 and is owned and maintained by TDOT. And it is on their calendar this year to be restriped. And so there is a restriping plan that they are reviewing for final approval. And then with that, there are some needs for restriping on our end north of where Signal Mtn Rd is on Dayton Boulevard for a stretch because, we're looking at striping, just restriping that intersection to align better with the new striping plan that's coming from on the TDOT section. So yeah, if you want to learn more about that, that is just approving for them to do a scope of work. It isn't going to cost more than $25,000. This is budgeted from our state street aid maintenance funds and on-call engineering service funds. So we'll be using those to pay for the scope of work, and then they will come up with what project needs are and then cost estimates after that. So that's it. So the other thing that I mentioned before that I'm excited about is that this is kind of only exciting for me and us on the board, but we adopted, as our last meeting, we adopted what's called a consent agenda protocol. So on our agenda, instead of having to now get motions and seconds and vote individually on certain kind of procedural items, like voting on the minutes from our last meeting, voting on appointments to the Board of Zoning Appeals. These are things that are not controversial, that aren't costing money, or are routine purchases. Something that's not on here that could be on here in the future could be something like we're purchasing new tires for the Public Works dump truck. That just has to happen. And, we're not not gonna purchase tires for the dump truck. Or the garbage truck. But it's called a consent agenda, and those items are kind of lumped in all together. And this is a normal procedure that governing boards use. Hamilton County uses this. So you place all of those kind of routine items under that consent agenda, and instead of having to have motions, seconds, and votes on each one of those items, you just say, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as published? Second, yes. And then we move on to regular voting items where there would be a need for discussion. And then with the consent agenda, if any of the board members are no, wait a minute, I have some questions about that, I want to have more discussion about that, they just say, they don't have to get a motion or a second, they just say, I would like that pulled from the consent agenda, and then we pull it and it goes to the bottom of our regular agenda. And then we have discussion and vote on it, other regular items. So, yeah, so that's going to be a little different moving forward, but hopefully it will help streamline our meetings, make them a little more efficient, so we don't get bogged down in, kind of discussion about things that are routine. So yeah, excited about that. And that's it. And then we are voting a second time on the food truck ordinance update tomorrow. So if you have any questions about any of those things, you can reach me anytime, email, social media, or you can show up to the meeting. Our work session is at 5 tomorrow, and regular meetings at 6. And that's all I've got tonight, guys. So if you think of any questions, just reach out anytime, and have a good rest of your Monday. Good night.